It was winter of 2015, and I was working in a doctor's office in Branson, Missouri. I just got a new iPhone, and I was excited to try out the time-lapse mode for its camera. On my drive home from work one early evening, I decided to stop and capture the sunset over Table Rock Lake. It was a gorgeous evening, and the winter sun would be setting soon. I parked my SUV at a state park entry parking lot, and mine was the only car in sight, but it didn't alarm me. I hopped down and realized how incredibly chilly it was. It was sunny, but blistering cold. I opened the back of my vehicle and put on some gloves and a better pair of shoes. Then I took off down a trail that led to the edge of the lake. I've noticed that Branson Belle showboat slowly making its way across the lake for its sunset voyage, and I thought it would be neat to capture it in the time-lapse. I was a single 31-year-old female with a lifetime of experience doing risky things on my own without consequence. The path down to the water was marked with large rocks on each side. I was in a hurry to get down to the shore and get into a recording position. I lost my footing, and then I fell down hard. My head rested on a pointy-shaped big rock that I think would have knocked me out, had I not managed to literally stop the impact the moment we collided. My knee and one of my hands stung badly. It suddenly hit me how stupid this was, because no one knew where I was, and I nearly incapacitated myself on a vacant trail in freezing temperatures, with it being minutes from dark nonetheless. As I sat there recovering from my fall, I decided I was close enough to shore, and I just filmed right where I fell. I was about to find out that falling down was the least of my worries. "Can I borrow a light?" I nearly jumped out of my skin. I turned around and there he was. He was standing about 20 feet behind me. I replied to him that I was sorry, but that I didn't have a lighter because I didn't smoke. "I saw you getting out of your car up there. You have a real nice ass, you know. Where have you been?" There seriously wasn't a soul in sight when I parked and headed down the trail. This next part you might find hard to believe, because I myself still cannot grasp that there are people out there like this. But his fourth sentence to me, and within less than a minute of appearing, he said, "Hey, do you want to fuck?" I knew I was in a lot of trouble. No one would hear me if I were to scream. Sure, the Branson Belle was out in the water, but it was several football field lengths away, and I'm sure I was invisible to them. They wouldn't hear me over the sound of the massive ship anyhow. Without missing a beat, I told him that it was too cold to do it outside, and we should go do it in my car. I pretended to be interested. In my mind, I just knew I needed to get off this trail before the sun went down, and obviously I'd abandoned capturing the sunset. I don't recall all the things he said during the walk up to the parking lot, but when he asked if he could touch my butt during the walk, I agreed. I knew it was a test. I still wasn't 100% sure he was going to let me make it off the trail, and anything I could do or say to please him on that walk was my ticket out. How had I got myself into this awful situation? God, I was so stupid. Just let me make it out of this, and I swear I'll be smarter. He kept his hand down the back of my pants for the rest of the walk. We made it to the parking lot, but, much to my disappointment, I was still the only car there other than a vehicle that wasn't parked in a real spot, and hadn't been there earlier. I knew it had to have been his car. He'd been hiding and watching me, and then he pulled up to the trail entrance and left his car at it before he began following me. May I ask why I didn't call 911 on the trail? Well, he was watching my every move. I wanted to make it off the trail unharmed and alive. I figured it being below freezing was a good excuse to refuse to do what he wanted to do out there on the trail. But please him I promising to do it somewhere warmer. Unfortunately, the parking lot was far enough off the regular highway that passing cars couldn't see it. Our next mission was to make it to my vehicle and escape. We were standing by his car, and he continued saying things that he was going to do to me. It seemed too graphic for me to write about. I was still playing along. I tried to get his name and number out of him, but he refused on both. Why would someone refuse to give you their name? He began unzipping his pants and trying to get me to do things to him, so I insisted we walk to my SUV. First, though, he grabbed something out of his car, and I never got a good look at it, but I'm pretty sure it was a gun. We walked across the parking lot towards my car. I pushed unlock, knowing that only pushing it once would only unlock the driver's side door. Had my keys in the ready position. I jumped in as he was attempting to open the passenger door. I threw it in reverse and backed up as the tire spun on loose gravel. Then I put it into drive and floored it. I was too afraid to look in the rearview mirror. I called 911 and gave them his description. Oddly, he was a handsome enough guy. Stood about 6 foot tall, blonde hair, brown eyes, a slightly muscular build, and nice features. Probably around 25 to 30 years old. You wouldn't necessarily look at him and think anything remarkable or otherwise. I wasn't ever in a position to see his license plate. I told him about his car. He drove an older, probably early 90s pale blue car. It reminded me of my great-grandfather's Oldsmobile. I didn't even have a first name to give them. After taking down my information, I never heard from anyone regarding my report again. I may never know what exactly he has done, but I do know that I sensed the presence of absolute evil that evening.